Kinda Funny Games had gotten an exclusive interview for Spyro A Realm Beyond, where Paul and Lou sat down in person for just over an hour with the crew. I'll be going over some of the major things mentioned, along with some interesting details. Let's talk about it!
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a brand new Spyro A Realm Beyond video. This interview was pretty hefty, and I wanted to make note on some of the newer details about Spyro A Realm Beyond. Again, a big shout out to Kinda Funny Games for this interview. I do encourage you to check out the full video, and I'll link it in the description below and in the pinned comment. First up, the trailer's response. The response for the trailer for Spyro A Realm Beyond was absolutely huge. The outpouring of support was incredible, with the trailer currently sitting at over 16.5 million views at the time of making this video. Even we Spyro fans were stunned by that number, and including Toys for Bob.
Absolutely. I mean, it knocked us back into our seats. It's, we were literally watching the numbers climb up as we're like, oh, people are connecting with it. As Paul mentioned, it's been a while, and so you always kind of hope that there's the audience. You hope that new people are interested in it, and I think what's great about Spyro, he's such an appealing character, such an appealing, type of world and tone to live in, and, it kind of stuck out from the rest of the Summer Games Fest. It really kind of found his own, lane, and I think that's what helped him kind of, soar above the noise in some ways.
When Toys for Bob began developing A Realm Beyond, the thought process was, what if we took the Endless Flight levels and the regular Spyro levels and mashed them together from the get-go, so that you can explore in the air and on the ground. So yes, for those who were concerned, there is still ground exploration and platforming in the game. However, Pollyann also went on to stress that the game is not a flight simulator.
Because what we don't want is for it to be a flight simulator where we say, okay, here's the destination, hit in the GPS, and we're going to coast and get there. There's no fun in that.
No autopilot.
Right? No autopilot. We want active decision making.
So right out of the mouth of the co-studio head himself, this is not a flight simulator. They started from scratch, and the game was built from the ground up, with the Dragonflight playing a major and active role. But this game isn't a set a GPS and fly to the location. Once the gameplay was figured out, they built the levels around that said gameplay to make it feel still like a Spyro experience with this new gameplay. They wanted the feeling of, if you can see it, the player should be able to think, how can I get there? So while you can eventually get to the point where you get to every point on the map, it requires an active decision-making role on how to actually get there.
So it's looking what you can interact with and connecting all of those to sustain your momentum and to keep going.
It's super important for us that the player is able to say, look at that thing off in the distance. How do I get there? And then how do I leverage the environment around me and my abilities in order to do that?
We also got a few more interesting explanations from the trailer, like the rings in the sky that we see. They're called, well, sky rings. We also got confirmation that Spyro will indeed be collecting gems. That is a thing that's been confirmed now for those that really were obtuse in saying that, just seeing gems doesn't mean anything. Yes, gems are confirmed to be able to be collected. Also, Lou avoided the question a little bit, but did, either on purpose or potentially accidentally, imply that Spyro's fire breath will be a bit different.
You can see here is changing the way he's using his flame breath while in flight. If the original game, it was all very much a sustained flamethrower, and what we found when we increased the scale and increased the speed of movement and the want to interact with the world while you were doing so, he needed to have more range. When he's in flight, you see it is now a fireball, and so you're being able to interact with the world much quicker and, with that lead time of you getting to it.
While on the ground, it may function and work like it similarly did in the original games, but while in mid-air, it will work like a lock-on fireball. However, I will stress that this was implied and not outright confirmed. Also, and it is something funny that was confirmed, there will be no skateboarding in Spyro A Realm Beyond. Yeah, that's been confirmed to not be there. Continuing, Toys for Bob also clarified even further what Spyro A Realm Beyond is. And no, it is not a reboot. It is based off of the character and personality that was established in the first 3 games by Insomniac. This is why Tom Kenny was brought back to voice Spyro to begin with. However, they stressed that Spyro Reignited specifically was the springboard for this game. So there was a question that was asked, and it simply boiled down to, why is it not called Spyro 4, especially referencing to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time? Well, Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time was given that name because of how close the gameplay was to the originals. Also, with many lore and characters from the past being tied to that game, and with how far the other Crash games detracted from the original formula, they felt that calling it Crash Bandicoot 4 made it appropriate. However, A Realm Beyond is going to be doing something different with the original formula of Spyro and going, well, beyond, and more importantly, is being made to be a great first game or entry level for any person to be able to hop into and try. So you won't need to play the original games to understand what is going on in this game. Having said that, if you are a fan of all these games, from the OG trilogy to The Legend of Spyro, the game will be chock full of references and details for longtime fans. Additionally, Toys for Bob made it a point that there is a significant line and a significant difference between Skylanders and Spyro, so understand that they understand this and that they believe that there is a significant difference between them and for the lines to not be blurred. Then, we got to some of the actual development of the game in the behind the scenes. Because of Toys for Bob's size, they can't be juggling a massive amount of projects for a long period of time. So while the idea for Spyro A Realm Beyond came along during Crash 4's development, they had to put a pin in it because they were working on Crash Bandicoot. Then, when COVID hit, Toys for Bob was mandated by Activision to stop whatever it was that they were currently working on and were told to work on Call of Duty and Overwatch. Toys for Bob, of course, being the colorful studio that they are, being placed on Shooty Shooty Bang Bang was really not that fitting. So when Xbox was buying out Activision, Toys for Bob reached out to Xbox and pitched to go indie. But Paul Yan confirmed that it was Spyro that was pitched. No other games were pitched directly to Xbox. They went directly to Xbox saying, we want to go indie, we want to work with you, and the first game we want to make is Spyro.
When working with Xbox for this, does the conversation start off at Spyro, or was there an exploration process of figuring out what IP or what kind of game you wanted to make with them?
It started with Spyro. We started it to say, this is the game that we've been thinking about since 2018, and we'd like to make this. By the way, we also want to go to independent. So it was these two giant topics came together and said, listen, this is our proposal. We'd like to spin off in independence, and the first game that we'd like to do is for you, in partnership with you, and we want to make Spyro because it's been on our minds, and we have this design premise, which Lou just spoke to, about how can we take the flight in classic Spyro and how can we elevate that and take it to a new level.
Now, as you know, one of the things that we do every year and that what we bring together is the Spyro Community Day. The goal of it every year is to showcase the love of Spyro to the world, exposing new artists and creators to the fan base, and to pound the drum of the same statement. We want a new Spyro. And during the interview, while on the topic of pitching this game to Xbox, Paul dropped something that was really awesome.
Reignited trilogy sold over 11 million units. You talk about the commercial viability of that. There's a strong case to be made, right? Yeah. There's a validation that there's an audience, and every year there's a Spyro celebration and community day, and it's like the fans are so loud about this, so clear. How can we not make this game? So let's make this our priority out the gate.
You have no idea how much that warmed my heart when I heard it. Finally, Toys for Bob said that they are committed and believe that they are going to hit the spring 2027 release date. And as you know, I will be covering and talking about everything until 2027 and beyond. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you want to support the channel, you can do so with the links in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next video and our live stream. Bye-bye.